Hey, event folks. I am Stephanie Nacelle with the Texas Event Project, and I am here with Justin the Beard Box. Justin has been working in live events since 2008, and he is an overall freelancer. If you need lighting, audio, staging, you got a concert, holler at Justin. Justin, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, what has your role been in live events?
Uh, like you mentioned, I've kind of done the gamut of things. I started in audio back in 2008, and I did that for a long time, and then moved to Austin in September 2015. Um, and the thing about being an audio engineer in Austin is that so is everybody else. So I got into lighting because I wanted to eat, and from there I picked up video, and I do some monitor rigging and some staging and set design and hopefully anything that's, if it was a concert or a speaking engagement or a church service, hopefully I could handle it. I haven't come across anything that I haven't been able to eventually get around to. So
Nice. Sounds like you are just overall whatever needs to get done.
try to be, yeah.
So, how has COVID affected what you do in events?
I mean, it basically almost completely shut it down. You know, there's been a handful of things since March, but I can only count, on one hand, essentially, the number of gigs that I've done since then. Live stream stuff, uh, one drive-in concert, one that was just a trust structure. Uh, my ability to work has basically just been decimated. Um, I can't go do what I do because we don't have the ability to run an event that has more than 10 people. And if you only have 10 people, you probably don't have a budget for even up lighting or front wash or a camera op.
It's been pretty tough, and I know a lot of people, including myself, who have pivoted to the online events. And as someone with capabilities to do physical to build physical sets, audio, lighting, rigging, there's there's not much of a need for that now. Like you said, that we're live events are limited to very small amounts.
Yeah, absolutely. The best thing that we've been able to do, we did a drive-in, worked alongside with Chris Haddad at HK Stages and the team at Austin Event Lighting, and we also had Nomad Sound out there. Uh, we were able to build a stage. We were able to build a truss structure to hang lights off of. We brought out a video wall. Uh, we went the whole nine that we could, but the fact of the matter is we were on top of a parking garage. There's limited number of spaces. When you have to put 10 feet between cars or a parking space between cars so that we can ensure that people are keeping a decent distance away from each other. Uh, that definitely is finite, the number of people you can get into that event. Um, so it's also one of those things that like it's not a long-term business model that can be sustained.
Those kind of events aren't happening every weekend, a few times a week. I mean, those are what, once?
I've done one drive-in. Yeah.
Yeah. So how are you surviving?
I've been very fortunate in that I've had a partner along this entire time, my wife, who's been able to handle most of our finances. And so the name of the game on my end has been saving money, uh, being on dad duty while she's working. All of our meals are pretty much made at home. Very rare to eat out. Just the little things that you do to try to make sure that the dollar goes the extra mile. I've been fortunate to uh, a few events, like I said, less than I can count on one hand, but they're decent sized enough that they was able to help get me from a little bit further along. And then there's just been some small opportunities here and there that are not been event driven uh, that have helped make ends meet. Um, but then also very eye opening that I absolutely like my career is in events, live events, and that an office setting or um, something that's just not is not really the move for me, at least the foreseeable future. Things that I've been doing to try to get ready for when events come back. One thing I started doing was I think it was in April. I started highlighting companies and cohorts, people that have been a part of my journey since moving to Austin, or even before that, um, to becoming who I am today in my career. I hashtagged it with "Get to Know My Industry" on Instagram, and just to go in and say, hey, like this company, this is what they do. This is how I've been a part of working alongside them. Crews are great. Individuals who have been integral to my growth as a production person. They've been there to answer questions and help me when I didn't know what I was doing. Uh, they've given me their little nuggets of knowledge, and I wanted to make sure that in that I was creating community and highlighting these people and letting people know that, hey, like these people, like this is their livelihood, it's their job. It's not a hobby for us. We're all workaholics. We can't not work, and so this has been really hard for all of us because uh, we don't want to collect a paycheck from the government. We want to go and do our job. That's been a big thing for me, is to try to just stay connected with what I do and who I do it with. Um, Practicing uh, some stage design, getting into bigger stages that I just haven't done before, all in a visualizer, uh, so that I can go in and say, okay, well, this is a 40-foot stage or a 50-foot stage. I've never done one this big before. Uh, you know, and to design something and make it cohesive, and what does it take to fill out a stage of this size, uh, and remembering bang for buck, because ultimately tours and concerts, and they all have a budget. um, so learning to do some more advanced stage design for lighting and video has been really a big part of what I've been doing. I've been digging deeper into video as well. I'm relatively new to that in terms of audio and lighting. I've been doing those for audio since 2008, and even before that, but professionally since 2008, and then lighting professionally since not long after getting here in 2015, probably 2016 is when I started doing that really, like, pretty full bore. Um, so getting into video has been another thing. You know, trying to stay sharp mentally is has been the thing. It's super easy to have been off. We've been off for 6 months, and then to finally get to go and do a gig, and then you get on site, and you're like, okay, how does this work? Okay, yes, yes, now I remember. Just to take a breath and have to think about it. Whereas before it was just get it off the truck, put it in the venue, set it up, go.
I feel you there. Having to kind of get back into the swing of doing an event, even if it's like an online event, it's you forget uh the things that come so naturally to you when you do it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you mentioned something really important, which is community, and it's a fellow community of your colleagues and people also in the industry and networking. And one thing that we're trying to do at the Texas Event Project is to bring the community together of technicians like yourself, event planners, people involved in event logistics, because we don't want to do something else. We don't want to go work for Uber Eats or Amazon. I don't want to learn how to, do banking or anything like that. Like Mickey mentioned in a previous interview, like we're not bank accounts, we're not like accountants and stuff like that. Like we do events. That's what we love to do. And we would have to completely change our careers.
Yeah, yeah, and I think for a lot of people, that's just a non-starter for us. People who have invested a decade plus of their time, friends who have gone to school to be lighting designers. Uh, people who've put their education, they've been doing it since they were 15, working in the local community theater or at their school or at their church, and then to just stop and do something entirely different is mind-boggling. That people they think that's just what you do, uh, and so I find a lot of people who are in the similar boat as me, where they're like, okay, how do I get through this? How do I take the situation, make it work for me for now, until I can go and run a concert again, or I can do a conference or whatever their particular role is in the event industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of just waiting and hoping for events to come back.
Yeah, that's been probably the hardest part of it all, because you read the articles that come out and it's like, okay, maybe by fall 2020, and then a month later another one comes out and it's like, it's going to be 2021, and then it's fall of 2021, and then you read another one and all of a sudden it's 2023, and it's like, well, I can't wait for things to go back to normal. And then some people who make the doomsday claim that it's never going to go back to normal, uh, and maybe that's true, but there has to be some way that we can use our skill sets. The internet's such a powerful tool that it doesn't have to be all live streams. There's still room for music videos, and there's still room for webcasts and webinars, and the skills that we have developed, we can still use them. And I'm hoping that I get to do that soon. You put it out into the world, like, hey, like, you can do something besides a concert with your skill set, and if people are willing to invest the money and the time and the foresight into staying relevant, then we can go back to work, and they can be a part of society again, whatever that is.
You had mentioned keeping sharp, learning more, like trying to build a bigger stage and playing around with that. Have you been able to pivot your skill set to any sort of online situation or video production?
Some of that stuff is a little harder to get into, the video productions particularly. Besides the financial barriers to entry, my home life at the moment doesn't lend itself to being able to sit at a computer for 3 or 4 hours to to do things like to edit currently, uh, and that's okay. What I have been able to do is, like, instead of doing a live event, I've been part of, in one way or another, different installs, uh, for even just simple stuff like networking. But it's all running cable. It all came from running clean lines and making sure that the cable's hidden or tucked away or not going to get stepped on. Or worked with a company that did, with a retailer that did a pretty full install with projection and uh, audio for in-store sound experience. Um, that retailer has a stage inside, so like we went in and put in a sound system as well and a small lighting rig. So yes, to answer your question, I have been able to use that in the install world. It's not quite the same, but a lot of the lessons learned along the way still apply.
Yeah, and again, I mean, how many installs are there? Not enough.
Surprisingly, a lot, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, actually, yeah, because construction is still considered an essential business. So while people are maybe spending less money on the frills, they are still happening. Companies are still opening locations. Um, Even small things like, a mom and pop restaurant that wants to put, or coffee shops, they want to put in a small sound system so that they can pipe in Spotify or playlists or whatever, and then also on Thursday nights have a little acoustic guitar and vocal session. So those things are out there; they do still exist, but because of the fact that nobody's doing live events now, the competition's more fierce to get those bids, and so things like your margins. Uh, I think that the companies doing the installs themselves are seeing the margins get chipped away a little bit.
It's also interesting that you mentioned that you're on dad duty because another factor of this is schools are doing online education, some are doing in class, and how has dad duty been? Like, how old is your kid? How many kids do you have?
So my son is 3, and my daughter is 4 months now. She was born back in May. Um, Fun
Oh, COVID
fact,
baby.
COVID baby. Fun fact, she was 7 weeks premature.
Wow.
Yeah. So the thing about it is that my wife and I look at each other and we're like, okay, well, had this happened any other year, how would we have even dealt with it? Because I would have gone to work and worked all day and then tried to find some time. I had to squeeze in because to go to the hospital because she was in the NICU for 8 weeks. And then also come home and do the things that I'm responsible to do at home. Um, and so that's the silver lining to all of this is that I was able to deal with that without having to worry about work all the time. But yeah, I mean, having a 3-year-old, he's kind of like if you remember the Tasmanian Devil from Looney Tunes, just spins and runs and tears everything apart and just crazy all the time. And my daughter, at 4 months old, is already she's a princess and she needs to be held all the time, and you can't put her down for anything. Um, so it makes things a little bit tricky to get anything done during the day. Uh, those like couple hours after 8 p.m. when everyone goes to bed, and I can just sit in the house in the quiet and work on design or work on um, trying to do that software. That's that's pretty much all I get is like maybe 2 hours, and then also spending that much time in front of the computer. Like at the end of it, I'm just fried. Um, yeah, it's been a unique challenge to say the least for me.
Yeah, that sounds like a long day, and then trying to wrap your head around a totally new uh, software or learning how to do something. You're how well are you actually learning at that point?
Yeah, um, it's probably questionable to say the least. But the good news is that I've had at this point almost 6 months to do it. So enough repetition. I think I've got it. I think I've retained some of it.
Yeah. So how are you thriving right now? Like are how are you taking care of yourself? I mean, not just your family and being the best dad in the world.
Mental health self care, in a lot of ways, for me, looks like sitting in a dark room, staring at my phone. Um, and I don't do that for a long time, and I'm not depressed. Um, it's just it's quiet, it's cool, it's just something that really doesn't is not pressing. And so for me to just kind of turn everything off for a little while, that's been the easiest, the cheapest, the probably most healthy way I could have self cared. No, it's probably not the healthiest, but um, it's the one that's kind of working for me right now. And I think that the idea that sometimes it's okay to just do nothing. I felt bad early on in COVID. Or like, okay, I'm not being productive with my time. I should be doing more. And then to see other people online support, like, hey, it's okay that sometimes you're not doing it at 100%. You're not being completely productive all the time. Because before COVID, I worked. I mean, in peak season, it wouldn't be uncommon for me to work 20 some odd days in a row. And those days are no less than 8 hours. And they're often 12 to 16. Uh, March and October are just absolutely crazy months under normal circumstances. Uh, so taking the time to just kind of, it's hard to do because I can't sit still. I'm a workaholic. I already said that. But trying to take advantage of it now has been something that I've been trying to do. And then also to look back at it and be like, okay, cool. Turns out you didn't have to earn all that money. You don't have to work 90 hours a week because, if you just smart about it or you do something a little differently, then, and granted, things like childcare, uh, which is a big part of what I was paying for working, you know, and not having to pay for that now, been a game changer, but it's very eye opening as well. It's like, where does all your money go? And then when you sit down and you start to look at it and like, okay, what can I cut away? And it's like, oh, okay, cool. I spent a lot of money on maybe necessities, but also a lot of nonsense. And so I've just been working on trying to make sure that when this is over, I maintain some balance. I wanted balance before, and then this happened, and it was like, oh, well, you wanted balance. Like, this is not balance. This is the exact opposite end of the spectrum, is what this is. Just kind of rehashing my situation and trying to make sure that, yeah, I'm home more and I'm not trying to work 90 hours a week, trying to do something different, but still what I love. Yeah, I mean that's kind of where my head's been, and I think coming out of this in a hopefully in a healthy mental state will be just that's all I need. That's all I need, and then I'll go back to work and things will be fine. It'll be great.
I feel you on all those levels. Just hustling, taking every job that you can get, just like work, 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 work. And I think, you know, one, I don't even want to say like upside to COVID, but I think COVID has forced a lot of us to take a seat and do some reflection. We're all sitting in a dark room staring at our phones.
I guess part of the coping mechanism was using Instagram, but it was to do those things, and it was originally just kind of like to stay connected, as I mentioned, but then it turned into this weird marketing schema on my part, to just kind of get my name out there and disseminate information. And I started doing it, and then I started getting followers because people were like, "Oh man, like I know that person, and this person's talking like this weird guy is talking about them, so let's follow him and see what he's talking about." Um, I don't know. It's been a wild ride. I'm ready for it to be over though. I have friends, the guys on Tame Impala, and now he's making tacos because that's what he's doing.
I really feel for the concert folks because those are people who are used to traveling 4 months on the
Yeah,
road,
yeah,
and they're like, I'm home, it's a
yeah,
totally different world. And, you're also used to getting like per diem or a stipend, and now you're like, okay, I'm not
yeah,
working and I have to pay for all my own food. Like,
yeah, yeah,
it's like all these new expenses that are coming up that didn't exist.
yeah, yeah. All my touring friends, I feel really bad for because as much as I can't sit still, those guys really can't sit still.
Hmm.
You know, for tour shows when it's like bus call, show call is at anywhere between 9 and 11 a.m. and then set up and prepping for shows, and then show happens, and then strike, and load it all in truck and get ready to go to the next gig. Uh, yeah, like those guys are go 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 all the time. I, it's impressive and exhausting, and just to think about. So yeah, you're right. You're right. Those guys are hit the hardest, and I don't even know what to say for them. Yeah,
I know, right? It's just you want to end on something like hopeful, but then you're just like, hang in there, Kit Kats.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's like I was saying, it's like um, to read those articles where it's like it keeps getting pushed back, or they start to talk to I'm blanking on the word, but the doctors who study communicable diseases, uh, I read a thing from like New York Times where they were like they pulled 300 of them and like how long before there's a whole list of things. How long before you walk to your mailbox without a mask? And like, oh, I'll do that this summer. And each event gets more and more, you know, there's more and more proximity to other people. And it's like, when do you think you'll go to a concert again? And a lot of them were like, it's going to be more than a year. And then there was like a pretty significant number. I'd say 30 to 40% of those people were like, I'll never go to a concert again. And when the doctors who study this type of thing are like, we'll never do that again. That'll never happen. And even if it's still not a majority of the doctors, it's still a pretty significant percentage. Um, but I did a gig in Utah, and there were 1,000 people on the lawn, and nobody wore a mask. So um, the concerts will probably come back. It's just going to be a weird environment that we're going to have to navigate.
Well, Justin, thank you so much for talking with me, sharing your story, and I hope you do find that balance in a healthy way. And it is okay to not do something for an entire day or even for a few days. Like, it's fine.
Thanks, Steph.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. If y'all are interested in following me, what I've been up to, the things that are happening in Austin and in this industry, I try to keep an up to date, a relevant Instagram account at the one they call Beard. Uh, I'm trying to get my website up and running, the one they call beard.com. Uh, Anytime I'm doing an event or something new or learning something, I'm always trying to spread that out there, connecting with new people. So if you want to give me a follow, I would appreciate it. I'm likely get a follow back, and I hope to see you all on the internet.
We're a community and we're going to survive this as a community.
Yeah, that's absolutely the only way it's going to work.
I'll make sure to include links on where we can all contact Justin, follow him on Instagram. He is the one with the beard, which I heard that a lot of people have that logo on them or something when they work with you. This is like I just think of someone with a like spray. Um, I'm totally blanking right now. Like it's your tag,
I actually am
with
in
the
the
spray
process.
paint.
I've bought rounds of stickers, and I'm just slowly but surely, like you buy 10 at a time, and I'm just slowly but surely trying to make sure that they look right before I order 1,000 of them. And I just kind of put them everywhere. Other production companies are not super stoked on it when they come back with the sticker just slapped on their case, but you do what you gotta.
I love it. Well, if anybody sees the beard logo that we have here, make sure to take a picture and tag Justin in
That would be awesome. I'd love to see that.
it. Well, thanks again, Justin.
Thanks for having me.